Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Patrons video today that I'm making for Dinnerhe as part of their custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen is from an act named Fujii Kaze titled Michi Teyu Ku, or Overflowing. So we're going to listen through this track from start to finish. We're going to hear what we think. With the understanding, of course, that I have reviewed Fujii Kaze's stuff before, I look forward to more. So let's do it.
Things change, and we can do nothing about it. Just letting go, feeling lighter, and becoming filled, overflowing.
That piano tone there is iconic. Sounds like an old school piano tone, like someone looking back at their earlier days. I mean, it's such a beautiful track with just Fujii and the piano. Like, it's enough at this point to be an entire song, and considering it's 1:48, I feel like I already get a grasp of what's going on, but it's just going to be interesting to see what he does next to develop it. Lots of exploration on the keys. Woodwinds. That transition to, I suppose, a younger version of the older guy there with the more sort of like recent instruments, like the more kind of fresh sounding basses and the sort of trappish kind of like more modern hip hop drums and stuff like that. It's smooth there, man. I mean, that transition there moving that synth up after the vocal runs, after the key, after everything got so big in that previous section. Not to mention the previous chorus, we had the those kind of vocal R's on the side, really pad-like. That's something that Fujii Kaze does really well. There's just a lot of positive things about this track, but that run there with those synth leads just before, how they came up and they all kind of harmonize and resolve together to kind of come down a little bit for this slight lowering of the dynamics and stuff. It's just really sweet. Great key change. I mean, just that fantastic vocal run at the end. We have the story iterated with different takes of the vocals. One's chanting one line, others sort of singing, kind of riffing over the top. We have things continue to build again with the different vocal takes, the different synths, the basses, etc., the keys. And we come down to this. And then the keys fade out. It's beautiful, man. Michi Teyu Ku, starring Fujii Kaze, as well as a lot of other people. There are a lot of people involved in this, man. And a lot more. And director Tomokazu Yamada. Beautiful. And Hand Records and Universal Music Group. I think that's a really positive track. I think that what image do we want? I like the one when he was in the bar, I suppose. I don't know. I'll find an image for us to do the conclusion over, and then we'll talk more about this track. Because welcome to the conclusion, my review of this track from an actor named Fujii Kaze titled Michi Teyu Ku. Now, what do I think this track is about? I think if I was to take the video and the audio into account, I think it's about, like, the love that he shared with that woman. Like, because I think the old guy misses his wife who died or passed away, right? He was imagining her being there whilst he was playing piano and stuff like that. You then have him in a situation where, like, he's younger and stuff like that and working himself up. And I think maybe he's, like, tired when he's old. He's kind of given everything he can, so he's kind of like at a point where he's just kind of relaxed and kind of like expended. And he's looking back at how he was when he was younger and all the things he did and everything like that. I'm not sure. Like, honestly, like, I had to look through the lyrics as we were going along and stuff like that. And he talks about, like, I had nothing and I give you everything. And I know there was more to it than that. I'm wondering if it's a situation where he was, like, dreaming of himself being young whilst he was writing about it. And, like, what he'd done, could have done differently or something like that. Or, you know, what Fujii Kaze at the start was talking about, how, like, nothing, you can't stop the changes and everything like that. Maybe it's about just kind of accepting what happens is what is and try not to get sort of too strung up over the little things. You just got to kind of give what you can and let that be enough. I'm sure people will sort of explain it more in the comments. There's a lot to take in with this track, and if I'm honest, I'm not sure if I got everything. But I think that the vocals were great. I thought that he did a fantastic job of singing it. You know, we were nice and low-key at the start in the lower part of the vocal range after we spoke for a bit. And then as we went on, we kind of raised a little bit, getting into the more kind of peppy second verse part there away from those nostalgic keys. And we added some extra R's on top as side backing vocals, building ourselves with up their main vocal line like a higher layer. going up into a head voice and kind of falsetto a little bit later on with like the interlude and stuff like that, going into the going back down after the synth rise and then back. And then there were different vocal layers, like one talking about the chorus line, he was riffing over on top. And then the end of the track was him riffing in that higher range. It's a really huge song. I think it's as close. It's like a ballad, isn't it? But it was really satisfying to listen to him sing and speak his truth, man. It was a philosophical stuff to talk about, but I think he handled it really eloquently, and the way he sang, I think, expressed an understanding of what he was talking about and was emotively appropriate for it. We had good control of our head and chest voice. A lot of the stuff that applies to my typical Fujii Kaze reviews proves here. Like, he's clearly a sensational singer, very confident in his range. Lots of really interesting melodies. They're not only played nicely with the existing chord triads and progressions, but also with the unpredictable sort of parallel major and minor chords and stuff like that that came along. You know, he was just really comfortable in his own shoes. He has a nice sort of like charisma to his performance as well. It's really, you can't really ask for more. So I understand why he's so successful. The track itself at 6 minutes is fleshed out with like a piano-ish vocal sort of accompaniment thing. Then later on, you know, like we talk about like how the guy was when he was younger and stuff like that. So you have like the kind of squarish basses, the synths, the trappish kind of high hip-hop kind of drums and everything like that. And that's like a newer age kind of part there. And I like that the older kind of nostalgic piano tone there with the kind of glow and filter on it, kind of vinylish kind of thing. It was that for the older man and the younger guy. I like that those were two sides, different structures and different sort of setups. It was kind of like 3 acts, because the third act was like the summation of all the parts before it, with that chorus and the key change and everything like that. It was a nice sort of combination of the young and old as they reached out to each other to try and find a connection. And yeah, instrumental. I think the transfers were seamless. The Fujii Kaze's vocals were the focal point the entire time. Some of the synth leads that we had were also really nice to listen to. The key, I mean, we had the keys and we had the piano by itself in parts. You know, the vocals went with the keys all the time. There was a lot going on with the right hand of the piano. Fujii Kaze can play piano, which is great, and we navigated those tricky chords and stuff really well with some interesting lead lines or melodies that were more complicated than what we were singing. I like that the keys built with the vocals. I like that the intensity of the instruments also kind of brought up with that. Now, dynamically, everything was well niched. I like that things weren't the same loudest the whole time. Would go up for like until the 4 minutes before that quiet bit, before like the final chorus and the key change. A few of the instruments I liked in this were, there was a piano. I thought it was wonderfully articulate. You know, we had lots of different rhythms played, lots of different chords, not just the typical minor major sort of like key structures, but also parallel majors and minors occasionally. But unpredictability there. You know, I think what I was thinking about is that it's simply that we know how to break the rules in a way that makes the track better and less sort of generic, I suppose. That gives a bit of classiness, and I've always said that time, but like, yeah, these jazzy infusions are really doing a wonder for pop music nowadays. The bass lines when they came in were great. Nice and sort of loyal to the root notes there, not overpowering. They had a nice sort of cool tone, like a kind of square synthish oscillation thing going there. It was kind of dope there. They sounded newfangled and futuristic. They were a nice foil for the hip hop drums when they came in. Usually you get 808s and stuff like that, but we didn't have that, so it was kind of a fun combination there. The drums were nice and punchy with lots of interesting 8th and 16th note grooves there. Not being too overwhelming and not too overpowering, but enough to kind of have variation throughout in a way that was really entertaining and interesting to listen to. We had other sort of synth tones come in, and they were like icing on the cake, really. We had like a saxophone-ish kind of thing going on with that build before the final chorus and the interlude before that. And they built nicely after the piano and keys and then piano and vocals. And they kind of slowly climbed up to the resolving note before we went down. We also had like a woodwind something or other like that between the piano verse and then the bass and drum second verse, or after the first chorus and then the second verse. It was a nice transition to the more futuristic elements. And yeah, like, I think the combination of those combined with the lyrics, I mean, like, I look at it as a theme thing, and it sounded like it was sad, but it was also trying to understand the fact that it needed to be sad. I don't think the track was trying to exaggerate the feelings we had or superimpose the importance of what we were going through. It was simply a chord progression that was ironically kind of neutral sounding, as if we were okay with what's going on, even though we kind of we started with some minor chords. The parallel majors flipped things as if we had a surprise sort of twist in the tail there. It was like, things are kind of sad because we can't always control things. All we can do is give it our best, and that's what the music told me. And I think when you couple that with the story and the lyrics and stuff like that, as well as the mood of the overall performance there, with things being really well played, but also like the warmth of the original piano tones with like the loyalty to telling the story through the use of instruments and the setting frames they're set in. It's well thought out and well handled. But the studio recording, mixing, mastering, it's just commercial grade. Fujii Kaze's vocals are nice and clear in the mix. The pianos, the synths, the pads, the bass, drums, everything are nicely niched as well. There was deliberate filtering work to make the piano sound sort of old school there with the way it was recorded there. Like they might have used a different microphone or kind of done less kind of cleaning on the EQing to make it sound a little bit more sort of organic. But the bass, the synths, the drums, and the second verse onwards were nice and tight and crystal clear. And they all came together near the end, kind of going between one another with synths layering on top, nicely niched within the frequency spectrum with no resonant frequencies there. Things are nice and wide in the stereo field as well. The music surrounding you in the headphones, especially when those backing vocals came and go, like that. It was huge sounding. And there were some parts where like it became massive because of the dynamic range and the rolls of the perceived loudness there. And it was really wonderful. It was still nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression limiting was handled. Effectively, this is my review of this track from an actor named Fujii Kaze, titled Michi Teyu Ku. And hopefully you enjoyed it. They were overflowing. And if you did, please do go check out their various social medias and YouTube page. And I suppose when I think of overflowing, maybe overflowing is overflowing with the sadness of the reality, but also maybe we're overflowing with the gratitude that we have for life. I'm not sure. I got parts that I'm still missing stuff from the story. This is what happens when I try to listen to everything at once. But hopefully you guys can let me know in the comments and stay cool. Stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as you need the help more than ever during all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SP Patrons video. Spiderhands Out.